So guys, I think like the next session we are going to be focusing on is centered around language. So kind of like, one of the things we've seen because we work in some of these areas, in these Maoist areas, is that the main two advantages the Maoists have is distance and language. So they stay with the Adivasis in the forests with them and they speak their language. And this actually gives them a lot of advantages over the government, which does not speak their language and by and large only exists along the road. So I think like any component which tries to win over the Adivasis who make up 99% of the foot soldiers, it needs to be focused on a way of reaching out to the Adivasis there. So I think in that realm, like we've been working with Craig and Mark Penny and a lot of other people on the field as well, a lot of other Gondi speakers from the field. So with that, I think before we get into the actual discussion, I'd like to invite Jayamati. Jayamati, आप अगर कुछ
Hello.
Hello, Jayamati. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
हाँ, जयमंती आपका मेरा आवाज आ रहा है? I think Jayamati might be having internet problems now. So let's proceed with the session and hopefully we can figure out the internet issues later on. So I think I'll start with kind of just a brief introduction. So I just came back from some of the kind of very remote areas in Dantewada. And I think what I saw is that a lot of the Gondi speakers who have phones, they know Hindi, the Gondi speakers who have phones. But it's the Gondi speakers who don't have phones. I mean, the real question is that when these people start getting internet and phones, what type of internet will they experience? Will they experience an internet where they have to navigate in a language unfamiliar to them? Will they have to use internet in Hindi, which like they'll have to learn just to use the internet? Or will they be able to start using the internet in their own language? So I think like kind of with that introduction, like there are about 3 million Gondi speakers today in India, according to the census in 2011, out of which it's estimated that around 25% speak it as a first language. So 25% of 3 million is actually a fairly high number. And we've been working with Craig and Mark to really kind of to try and build technologies which allow them to access the internet in their own language. So I think I'd like to start with Mark. Maybe Mark can start things off before a presentation that Mark has prepared. So Craig, maybe if we can start with you. So Dr. Craig has finished his PhD and master's from Stanford University. He's now a senior software engineer at Google, where he works at internationalizing products and also localizing products, because I think both of these elements are very important. So I think recently one of his projects which he had talked about was launching Gmail in Cherokee, which is a language which is spoken by a tribal group. So I think with that, I would like to let Craig take over.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me. I'm calling from California. It's very dark here, but I'm very pleased to be talking with you over these many kilometers. I have been a software engineer at Google for over 13 years now, and I work in a team called International Engineering. Our job is to support the written forms of languages in all of Google products. So if you use an Android phone, if you use Google Chrome or Gmail or any other part of Google's systems, you are probably using some of the things that the people who work with me support. Right now, Google supports many languages, but we also work very, very hard with the Unicode standard. And the idea of the Unicode standard is actually quite simple. We want to give every character in every different language its own code so that all of these characters can work together on the internet. So in addition to my work as a software engineer within Google, I and other people who work with me also work on the Unicode standard. We work with adding new writing systems to the standard. We implement it so that every Google product can use all the languages that are coming online. Now, that does not mean that every Google product will have its user interface translated, but it does mean that if you have your writing system in the Unicode standard and someone has developed a font and a keyboard for that, you should be able to use the Unicode characters for a writing system on almost every computer, almost every mobile device. And that is one of the things that I've been very interested in. As Dev mentioned, I've worked with different communities around the world. I started with the Cherokee Nation, which is a Native American group in Oklahoma, almost 10 years ago now. And we developed some things like with them, Google search can be found in the Cherokee language, Gmail also. The exciting thing about that is that it is given great respect and to the Cherokee people that their writing is available on the internet. They can use Google search to find other Cherokee text that has been written in websites and in social media. And these things make it very interesting for Cherokee people. They can use text messaging, they can use email, they can create their own websites, they can use social media in the Cherokee language. And of course, this is available to anyone who has a language that is written. And one of the exciting things is that the work that I do and that different parts of my team do not only work for Native American communities, but through this work, I've worked with people in Africa, Canada, Asia, including Bangladesh and India and Pakistan. I have helped introduce Google support for the Burmese language when Myanmar became more open several years ago. And I am also now working with people from the Rohingya community, people without a country, but yet they have a written language and they are learning to use their language so that they can maintain their communities, have respect for themselves, and expect respect from others because they have a language which helps them keep their culture, their communities, even when they are spread across many different countries. One of the reasons why this is exciting to be involved with the work that you're doing with Gondi is that Gondi has two writing systems that are now part of the Unicode standard. And in 2017, the Masaram writing system was added to the Unicode standard. The benefit of that is that over the last 3 years, Google and other companies have done some work to support the way that Masaram is written. There is a Unicode font, for example, which is available to everyone, and Dev and others in your group can tell you exactly how that can be found. This font can be loaded onto any of your Windows systems, and you can use it with the applications that you use online, with web browsers, text processing, including Microsoft Word, and you may also use it to post things on social media. If someone looks at that social media or has access to one of your documents and the font is installed on that person's device, they will be able to read the text that's written in Gondi. Now, I know that not many people know how to use reading and writing in Gondi yet. This makes it possible for people to start to learn. It makes it possible for them to prepare educational materials that children can start learning to read and write in the language, and it will help them to communicate. The Unicode font that Google created is one of the many fonts that have been created. Anytime a new writing system is added to Unicode, that happens every year, Google will develop a font and make it publicly available. And I have found that on my own Android phone now, I can actually use Mazarin text. I don't know how to read and write it, but I know that if I send myself an email in that text, it appears on my phone. And because it's in Android main system, over the next few years, that font should become available to anyone who has an Android phone, because even though older phones do not get the modern fonts that are added, as new versions of the operating system come out and as people buy new telephones, they should be able to get this font. They should be able to use the Gondi writing on their phones. And Mark has worked on developing keyboards for this. And that's very exciting because now people will be able to read and write their language. Unicode is exceptionally important, not just because it has codes for every character in all these writing systems, but because it is supported by almost every computer, every mobile device that is in the world now, and probably going forward, everyone will. And there is strong incentive for any company who builds any kind of computing device or any kind of application to support all of Unicode. They don't have to think specially about supporting Gondi, because when the font exists and the application is written so that it works with Unicode characters, Gondi will be a writing system that will be supported automatically. It won't have everything that every language has. It won't have spell checking automatically. It won't have some of the more advanced features of languages, which of course everyone wants, such as speech understanding and speech to text and text to speech. It will not have machine translation automatically, but the ability for people to send text to each other in their own language is a very powerful tool. My goal is that every 12-year-old who has a phone will be sending messages to his parents or her parents saying what they're doing after school and then go play with their friends. And when people are using the language to do their day-to-day work, then that language will grow and change and become part of the language community of the world. So this is just a brief introduction to the work that I have done. I'm pleased to meet some of you for the first time. I would be very happy to hear your comments and questions. I think that's enough from me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Craig. मैं अभी थोड़ा हिंदी में बताऊंगा. I'll just explain in Hindi a little bit, like very briefly what you said. तो अभी Craig ने बताया कि उसने पूरी दुनिया का लोगो जो अभी गूगल यूज करते हैं, कोई ना कोई उसका प्रभाव हुआ है उनके ऊपर, क्योंकि उसने बहुत सारे भाषा अभी इंक्लूड किया है गूगल में. जैसे एक भाषा है अमेरिका में, चेरोकी करके नाम है, तो उधर के जो आदिवासी है यूएस में, उसका भी भाषा उसने फोन में ले आए, गूगल फोन में. तो ऐसे ही अभी उसको गोंडी में बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है काम करने के लिए, क्योंकि दो तरह का गोंडी है लिखने के लिए. एक है मास्ताराम गोंडी और दूसरा है गुंजाला गोंडी, और दोनों के ऊपर अभी यूनिकोड सिस्टम में आया है. ये जो जब यूनिकोड सिस्टम में आता है, एप्लीकेशन अभी 2017 में अप्रूव हो गया, तो अभी गूगल इसके ऊपर काम कर सकता है क्योंकि यूनिकोड में आ गया है. तो अभी जो एंड्रॉइड 11 के ऊपर है, उसमें अगर आप चाहते हो तो आप गोंडी में लिख सकते हो गूगल एंड्रॉइड में. तो आने वाली जो पीढ़ी है जो गूगल यूज करने वाले हैं, वो अभी गोंडी में भी टेक्स्ट कर सकते हैं, गोंडी में ईमेल कर सकते हैं. हाँ, बहुत सारे चीज नहीं कर सकते, जैसे आप गोंडी में बात करेंगे और फिर वो टेक्स्ट में आएगा, वो अभी संभव नहीं है. लेकिन अभी शुरुआत हुआ है और गूगल एंड्रॉइड 11 से ऊपर कोई भी गोंडी से अभी मैसेज कर सकते हैं. So I think like Jayamati is on now. So before we start with Mark's presentation, Jayamati, क्या आप एक अभी कविता सुना सकते हो गोंडी में? Okay. Okay, she seems to still not be here. So hopefully we'll get to hear her poem in Gondi after Mark's session. So Mark, over to you. I know that you have a presentation prepared and we're already over time. I'm sorry for that. So over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark. मैं हिंदी में भी बात कर सकता हूँ क्योंकि बिहार झारखंड में पैदा हुआ। इस साल मैं न्यूजीलैंड वापस आऊँ क्योंकि हमारा परिवार यहाँ पे है और इससे पहले 20 साल से ज़्यादा भारत देश में काम कर रहे थे। So yeah, I was in India for more than 20 years, and a lot of that time was working in Adilabad district of Andhra Pradesh, now Telangana. And I want to start with a brief story, which was when I was learning Gondi myself 20 years ago. The man who was teaching me was from Aheri, and he explained that he had a special script in which to write Gondi. And from memory, he wrote down all the letters, ka, ka, ga, ga. He wrote them down. And then he was a little bit unsure of some of them, but he wrote them down anyway. And he came back the next month, bringing a chart with all the Unicode characters, all the Masram Gondi characters. This was way before it was in Unicode. But he had committed to memory the whole alphabet and could read and write. That really encouraged me that this script was not just an ancient script, it was actually alive and well. People could read it and write it. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay, and we'll see what we get. Thank you, Craig. It's nice to meet you online and to hear some of the things that Google is doing. I just checked by myself and I found that you can get emails in in Masram Gondi here. And I'd like to demonstrate some of these things. As in the previous session, somebody was singing that beautiful song. I thought, why don't I just copy the text from that in Hindi and turn that into Masram Gondi? So here we are, just in Notepad itself, we've got the words of that song that was just sung. And how is that possible? Well, one of the things, you could type it in, of course, yes, but we can also do script conversion of data once it's in Unicode, and that's very easy to do. So I'll start with a brief demo on the Android phone first, so that you can see how it's possible. So let's just go there and bring up an emulator. So on my phone here, right in front of me, I have a program called Keyman, and in that we can bring up the Masram Gondi font and start typing. So if I wanted to say now, oops, I made a mistake there, sorry. Now, yes, getting wrong. I could say porol, and I can type whatever I want to type here in the script on the phone as you see it coming up there. Okay, and we can do whatever we like here. We've got all the Gondi digits as well, and other various characters that we need. So that's great, it works here. But when we want to share that text, let's say I want to share that through a WhatsApp message, I'm going to share that through WhatsApp, and I'm going to send that just to myself for the moment. And you will see that along the bottom there, it's all just coming in boxes because I do not have the font. Okay. So one way around that for older phones, for example, is to do what I've done above. So I'm going to just delete this message. Sorry, not that one. Delete this. Remove that, because that's no use. If I send it to someone, they're just going to get boxes as I'm seeing boxes. The reason for that is this is an older phone. It's not Android 11. So what we can do then is to come back to here and take a screenshot of what we have. So that's easy enough to do on an Android phone. Click on the screenshot, and we can say, this is the piece that I want to send to somebody. And we can leave that up there. And we'll just send that now by WhatsApp. And you will see that the person at the other end will see that as an image and away it goes. So that's one way around the problem right now of older phones are not supporting either Gunjala or Masram Gondi scripts until they're newer, but you can use an app like this to take screenshots and send a message as an image. Similarly, you can do the same thing here. If I send this as an email to myself, we will see that even though it's not displaying here, it's all showing in boxes. When I send that and it turns up in my inbox, it will work because I have the font installed on my own, on the phone, on my laptop. Sorry, on the laptop, not on the phone. So if we just pop in here and hopefully there's a message from me coming in soon. I think I showed you that earlier, that the emails will have, will display properly because the font is installed. So yeah, somebody else is writing on my screen at the moment. That's okay. All right, so I want to show you, just to bring up a new, well, let me start back at the beginning. I have shared a folder in Google Drive, in which anybody who wants can download this Keyman desktop for Masram. And this is the file here in green. And if you download that and install that, it will install the Keyman program. It will install the keyboard and the font. All of those will be installed. And you'll see an image will pop up like this. And you can say, okay, this is Gondi Masram, start Keyman, and away you go. The easiest place to start typing is in something like LibreOffice, where we can turn on the keyboard. Down here at the bottom, you'll see this colorful little icon here, which is the Keyman thing, and the Microsoft language is following that. And if we start typing right away, sorry, where are we going? Yeah, Now, I've noticed that this is coming up in a different font, and it's looking like Mongol here, but I'm going to select that and change this to the Noto Sans font here, which is Noto Sans Masram Gondi. And now you'll see how that's it. So let's go to Nawa Puna font. Okay, and I can type that. Now, you're having to trust me that that's what it says, id mawa puna font an, but you can't read that, most of you. Some of you can and are smiling, some of you can't. But if I wanted to take that text, I can copy that just like any other text to any other place. Let's just put it into Notepad, for example. And even in a simple Notepad editor, you can paste it and it will work fine because the font is installed and it's all Unicode, so it all works fine. And as I mentioned before, we can also now convert text like this. So we can copy that, we can put it through a converter. So here I'm saying I've got Masram Gondi and I want that in Devanagari. I click on that and I can now paste, that's what it is, Idnawa Puna font and. Okay. Similarly, I could take the same thing and make that, there's another converter here. I could make that into Telugu and put that into Telugu. So one of the important things when we have a language that's spoken across different states and different preferences, whether you use this script or that script, it's the same language, but can be written in 4 or 5 different scripts, then converters are very useful. And those things are increasingly becoming available online, but there's other ways of doing that as well. So once things are in Unicode, it becomes very easy to do that, to convert between one script and another script. And that's important because if you have material and you think, oh, here's this thing here that I've got offline, but what does it actually say? You could copy that, you could put it through a converter and say, let's put that back into Devanagari and let's paste that down here. and suddenly you've got your whole poem back in Devanagari rather than in Masaram Gondi. So it works both ways. You can go whichever way you want, and that's one of the beauties of Unicode. One thing that I'm looking forward to, and I'm working with Sridhar in Hyderabad, is working on other typefaces for this. So this is a sans serif font. I've noticed that there are also many much more artistic looking fonts, and to be able to develop a whole range of fonts to serve the Gondi people. And we look forward to getting feedback from that. Okay, so back to this page here. How do you get to here? If you type in tiny.cc/Masaram, like that, so that's the link, tiny.cc/Masaram, you'll get to this page that I've just shown you. And all you need to do is download this one here in green. So select that, download it, install that, and then you will get the keyboard and the font all installed for you on a Windows system. This PDF here, which I'm just about to display, will tell you what the characters are that you type to get these letters. You will notice that this is the WinScript keyboard layout, which is a Roman-based system. So if you want to type K, you type K. If you want La, you type L. H is H. So according to the layout on the Roman keyboard, it's easy to type. Some people prefer the InScript layout, which has the consonants on the right, the vowels on the left. I'd appreciate hearing from you to find out which layout you'd like us to support, and we can make sure that that's available. Notice, however, that when you go to a touch layout, you can have a whole different layout. And on a phone, you don't have that much horizontal space. So you reduce the number of letters if possible, so that you can fit everything on. But the same keyboard, when it's installed, can be installed on a PC or a phone, and the layout can be tweaked as needed. So please do pass on any feedback to me at markpenny@asail.org. I'm happy to incorporate improvements to this system. And if you need any help, eventually, once this is a little bit more stable and people have tested it and given feedback, what we will do is we will put it on the Keyman site, where you just go to keyman.com. You can enter Gondi here and say search. And immediately it'll show you any keyboards that will work for Gondi. So you've got Gondi in Devanagari script, you've got the Gunjala one, you've got Telugu, and soon Masaram will be here as well. So when you select one of those, you'll see that these are truly cross-platform keyboards. So they'll work on Windows, they'll work on Macs, they'll work on Linux, iPhones, iPads, and Android. So the same keyboard will work across any platform. You don't need to relearn different layouts for different platforms or use different software. Everything is there in one place. It's free, it's open source, and that's why SIL is supporting it. It's we're there for the minority languages that really need to communicate with each other. So there is the Keyman app if you're interested in that, and that's what you can install. And then once we've shared the Masaram Gondi script keyboard, you can download that for the app. Are there any questions or feedback, Dev? I'm happy to take any more.
No, I think this was very useful.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we can, like, if someone can raise their hand over here if they want to talk, or just type in the chat section. जो भी अभी side में आप लिख सकते हो. अगर आपका कोई भी प्रश्न है कि कैसे इसको यूज करना है, गोंडी में टाइप करना है, कैसे कर सकते हैं, तो प्लीज आप कमेंट्स जो है, जो चैट फंक्शन है, उसमें लिख लो, और फिर हम आपको अनम्यूट करके आप फिर बात कर सकते हो. So I think okay, so I think like that was very useful to understand, like, you know, for the entire demo that you gave. And अभी मैं थोड़ा समझाऊंगा सबको कि अभी मार्क ने क्या बोला, कि अभी अगर आपको गोंडी में टाइप करना है तो आपको एक ऐप इंस्टॉल करना है जिसका नाम है कीमैन. तो वो कीमैन ऐप गूगल में भी है और आईफोन में भी है. तो वो कीमैन ऐप टाइप करके वो आप मसाराम गोंडी भी आने वाला है कुछ दिन में, अभी गुंजाला गोंडी है, देवनागरी गोंडी भी है उसमें, तो सब कीबोर्ड उधर से अभी मिल सकता है। जो लोग एंड्रॉयड 11 है वो फिर फोन के अंदर ही आ जाएगा, वो एंड्रॉयड 11 के ऊपर में। तो अभी मार्क ने एक लिंक भी दिया tiny.cc/masaram, तो उसमें भी आप जाके ये पूरा अभी गोंडी स्क्रिप्ट मिल सकता है, अभी ये masaram गोंडी। So I think like Mark, I've heard that, I mean, so Mark also so Mark also has, like, you know, he has his organization SIL, which is working on language support and language development. और मार्क अभी गोंडी में भी बात कर सकता है मार्क। तो मार्क, I would request you to maybe talk a few words in Gondi, since I've heard that you know a little bit of the language.
Oh no, sorry, one second. Dry throat, sorry. Now, parole Mark Penny. Nana New Zealand des nal Bharat des naga welcome kitom. Adilabad zila taga 15 साल को वेरी मोमोटागा भाषा विज्ञान ता काम कितों इनके वेरी गुंजाला गोंडी लिपि तैयार कीसी font आणि keyboard पूरो publish कितों नि वेले पुस्तक dictionary नि movies गिर Adilabad Gondi lipite kitom. Inke veri welcome ata pati munne bhasha munne voyan sati by welcome manta ani veletir madat kiya laga. Yeah, so I'm just saying that a lot of work has been done so far, but for this work to go ahead, many more people need to be involved, especially in preserving the Gondi language. Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Shu, for Shubhranshu, for giving us this opportunity to share with you. I think it's great to see the partnership of different organizations and companies working together to bring these scripts to the Gondi people so that they can use them to their full. Of course, there were non-Unicode solutions available before, but they're a nightmare because everything is custom made and nothing works as it's expected. So once it's in Unicode, you're on a level playing field with all the other scripts and languages in the world. And it can only get better from that point on. So, and I think, Craig, you've also done a lot of work to convert old legacy fonts to Unicode. So that's another part of the puzzle too. Thank you.
तो अभी कुछ साथी हमारा बोल रहे कि हिंदी में सुनना है, तो अभी मार्क ने बोला कि अभी उसने जो काम अभी हमने शुरू किया कि ये पूरा फॉन्ट गोंडी में करना है, अभी आप लोगों के साथ ही ये इसका पूरा हम ज्यादा इसको बढ़ा सकते हैं। जो भी हम कर सकते थे यूनिकोड में ले आया, अभी सब भाषा एक होता है यूनिकोड लाने के बाद, चाहे वो अंग्रेजी हो, हिंदी हो, यूनिकोड लाने के बाद सबका एक ही गेम है खेलने के लिए। तो अभी मार्क ने कहा कि कोई भी अगर समाज से कोई इस पे फीडबैक या कुछ बोल सकता है तो अच्छा रहेगा। तो मैं अभी अर्का मानिक राव से मैं थोड़ा निवेदन करता हूँ कि क्या अर्का मानिक राव थोड़ा अभी बात कर सकते हैं इसके बारे में, गोंदी का क्या महत्व है, इसके ऊपर थोड़ा बात कर सकते हैं तो अच्छा रहेगा। जयमती is also unmuted now. तो जयमती, अगर आप भी अभी गोंडी का कविता सुना सकते हो तो प्लीज अभी सुनाइए। Is K Manik Rao, is he there right now? So we can see Arka Manikra, but I don't think he's talking right now. How do we bring him on? Can someone call him? Jaymati is also live. Jaymati, आप मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
मेरी आवाज आपको आ रही क्या?
जी 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 आ रहा है, आ रहा है. आप अभी
आ रहा है ना?
जी 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 जी.
हाँ,
तो आप अभी हमको गोंदी का
जब से
गाना.
हाँ, वो गाने वाली थी लेकिन मेरा आवाज नहीं आ रहा था ना आप लोगों के पास. अभी आ रहा है क्या?
जी आ रहा है.
मावा ಈಗ पेन मनता आया अद पेन कीनन अर्जी बिंत कीतन. हाँ, सेवा 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 इस पुराल सेवा 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 टोंडा मंडा कुंडा सेवा सेवा टोंडा मंडा कुंडा सेवा सेवा पेन्ना सेवा पेन बूढ़ा पेन्ना सेवा सेवा नेलियायन सेवा 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 नेलियायन सेवा सेवा वीरतियायन सेवा 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 वीरतियायन सेवा सेवा पड़ा पेन सेवा 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 पड़ा पेन सेवा सेवा सल्लाग्रा सेवा सेवा से सल्लाग्रा सेवा पेन कुंडा सेवा 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 टुंडा पेन सेवा सेवा या मावली सेवा 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 पल्ली पेन सेवा सेवा लिंगो जंगम सेवा 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 गुट्टा मेटन सेवा सेवा पेन गायतन सेवा सेवा केसर गायतन सेवा सेवा जल कन्यान सेवा सेवा जल कन्यान सेवा सेवा यर कुयर वेरतुन सेवा सेवा यर कुयर वेरतुन सेवा सेवा बेड कुटनेल भूम सेवा सेवा बेड कुटनेल भूम सेवा सेवा गेडा कुटुम से तुम सेवा सेवा गेडा कुटम सेवा तुम सेवा सेवा राव पाठ तुन सेवा सेवा राव पाठ तुन सेवा सेवा इको मिको लेंज तुन सेवा सेवा इको मिको लेंज तुन सेवा सेवा दंते सरियायन सेवा सेवा दंते सरियायन सेवा सेवा सबई तोरकिन सेवा जोहार.
जय जोहार. जयमती, आप गोंडी पढ़ भी सकते हो? आप पढ़ सकते हो गोंडी? मासाराम गोंडी या गुंजाला गोंडी पढ़ सकते हो या दोनों?
हाँ, गोंडी पढ़ सकती, मतलब जो अभी मैं पढ़ सकती हूँ वो तो देवनागरिक में लिख के पढ़ सकती हूँ.
ओके ओके, बढ़िया. और आपका आपने अभी जो गीत गाया, आपने जो गीत गाया अभी बहुत बढ़िया था. उसका क्या मतलब है?
नहीं
Okay, I think her internet has gone at the right time in one way, because yeah, I think she's on mute now. But can we have either Tritha? Is Tritha there right now? either Trita or Arka Manik Rao, if you can. Arka Manik Rao जी, आप अभी mute पे हो, आप unmute कर सकते हो अपना microphone. Okay, Mark, it was great having you here. We will now continue our consultations with all the villagers who gathered here, and we'll be sure to pass on any feedback they have on the layout of the keyboard. We'll be sure to teaching people how to install and use the font and keyboard as Dr. Craig had suggested. So I think now in the next 1 hour, we'll try to kind of really have some of the feedback sessions from the people who will have to be using all the technologies that you've developed. So thank you to both of you for coming in and taking the time out.